What up, everybody? You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I want to make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because the NBA trade deadline is 8 days away, and we're going to be going live for the trade deadline, keeping you up to date with everything that's happening around the NBA, all the trades, everything you need to know. So subscribe and turn on those notifications. Hit that bell icon. It's probably right here, right underneath me. That way you get alerted when Chat Sports goes live for the NBA trade deadline. What up, NBA fans? You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. We got a bunch of NBA trade rumors to talk about. We're going to talk about OG Anunoby because those rumors are heating up. We'll also talk about the professional score out in Detroit, Bojan Bogdanovic, some other NBA storylines to get to. But first, let's start with D'Angelo Russell of the Minnesota Timberwolves. The latest reports are the Timberwolves will look to move D'Angelo Russell before the NBA trade deadline. Kind of an up and down season so far for Minnesota. The Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns pairing really hasn't worked out, and it really hasn't worked out too much for D'Lo in Minnesota. So far this year, he's having a pretty damn good season, though, statistically. 17.5 points per game, over 6 assists, and the efficiency is there. That's always been a problem for Russell. He's usually a sub 43% shooter from the field. Not this year. He's shooting 46% from the deck and almost 39% from downtown. Those are elite shooting splits for a guy like Russell that likes to get his shots up, and he's creating for others with 6.3 assists per night. The thing is, it's just not really translating into wins right now for Minnesota. They sit at the 8th spot in the Western Conference, so they're right on the border of the play-in and the playoff, and you can see how tight the standings are. The Timberwolves, they have 27 wins, while as the Clippers, who are the 4th seed, and the Kings, who are the 3rd seed, have just 1 and 2 more wins for them. So you go on a winning streak, you could be at the top. You go on a losing streak, you could be outside the play-in at a very, very quick change of a moment. The T-Wolves are in a tricky spot based on the standings because of like we just said. You win a couple games, you could shoot to the top. You lose a couple games, go on a losing streak, you could be outside the play-in and looking at a lottery pick coming up in the 2023 NBA draft. I like D'Angelo Russell, D'Lo, ice in his veins, but I think we've done enough to see that this trio and what's the word for 4? Quadruple. We got a trio and then whatever you want to call that. Russell and Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, it just really hasn't worked out for them. I think it might be time for them to change something up. And if you can get good value for Russell, I would do it. I think you could. Maybe a first-round pick or a little bit more after that. What do you think the Minnesota Timberwolves should do, though? Take the seat of their GM. What should the T-Wolves do with D'Angelo Russell? I think if you get a good offer, I'd move him. But at the same time, he's a good player, and he's having a good season. Type T for trade, type K for keep. I want to hear from you down in the comment section. The biggest name I think that could be traded before the NBA trade deadline, is OG Anunoby, the two-way forward of the Toronto Raptors. Adrian Wojnarowski reporting the Raptors believe they can get 3 first-round picks for Anunoby. It's a lot to give up, but Anunoby's a good player. I just wonder if he's worth that much of a package. Woj expanded on his thoughts, and this is what he had to say. Anunoby is a player around the league. There is great interest in him at really probably the most important position in the league at that wing forward. 6'7" player, two-way player. I think there's a belief that Toronto could get as many as 3 first-round picks in a deal for Anunoby if they decide to move him. It just hasn't really worked out for the Raptors this year, and that's why Masai Ujiri is possibly thinking about moving on from a guy like OG. I love OG as a player. He's a two-way wing, and he can knock down open shots and score it up. 17 points per night, over 45% from the field, and he knocks down almost 37% of his shots from beyond the arc, leads the league in steals per game at 2.1. He can also play a little bit of small ball 4. That's really what he is. He's a 3 and a 4, playing a modern offense with a modern head coach. He would be a perfect fit for a lot of those guys. 3 first-round picks feels like an overpay for me for OG Anunoby, but it always comes down to, before I say that, the first-round pick, that word is such sticker shock. You look at that and you're like, whoa, first-round pick, but not all first-round picks are created equal. An unprotected first-round pick is the best you can get. but it's not the same as a first-round pick that's lottery protected. So what if the Raptors get an unprotected first-round pick and then 2 heavily protected first-round picks? So you get a little bit of a sticker shock when you see 3 first-round picks, but it always comes down to the protections. You got to read the fine print sometime. Not all first-round picks are created equal. If a team that has a lot of first-round picks deems Anunoby as a piece that can put them over the hump, and you got those at your disposal, maybe then you could look to make a move. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to help whatever team he ends up with, even if that is the Toronto Raptors. We're going to touch on Bojan Bogdanovic coming up in a second, but first, and John Collins, and more NBA trade story deadlines. But first, I want to tell you about our proud sponsor, Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/NBA now. That link is in the comments and description of today's show. I use Rocket Money because I want to save money, and I bet you want to save some money too. If you do, listen up, because Rocket Money is going to help you stay on top of upcoming bills. They'll cancel your unwanted subscriptions for you after you're able to view all your subscriptions on one screen. I mean, Forbes is calling it the app that will save you hundreds of dollars. I also love that they negotiate to help you lower your existing bills. And the best part is, I'm trying to get my credit score up, and they're going to do that. They're going to monitor events that affect your credit score. Look, maybe you have a subscription that you didn't know you had, or maybe it was one that you've been double charged for. You get to view all your subscriptions on a nice, easy, readable screen. And maybe you're like, I don't even watch Netflix. Why am I paying $20 for it a month? Rocket Money, they'll let you cancel that subscription with just a tap. I love it. You're going to love it. Go to rocketmoney.com/NBA now to get started today. John Collins, a name that anytime we get close to the trade deadline, it seems like his name gets brought up out of the ATL. The report is that the Pelicans are interested in trading for John Collins. I like Collins. He's an athletic wing. He has some defensive versatility, and he can step out and knock down that 3-ball shot. I like him as a player. I don't know why it continues to not work out in Atlanta, but I do kind of like the fit in New Orleans as a part of a team led by Zion Williamson with the Pelicans. This is what Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports went on to say about the trade rumors. He said New Orleans has been repeatedly mentioned as a suitor for the Hawks forward John Collins. The Pelicans have certainly registered their interest with Atlanta. The team would seem to be a natural trade partner with the Hawks, eager to add defensive-minded players, and the Pelicans looking to find greater offense and more shooting. It's just not going good for the Pelicans right now. They have lost 9 straight games. I think it might be time to just shake something up and try to figure out what they got over there. And I think a guy like Collins would make that team better, but it always matters what you're going to give up. You don't just get to get these good players without giving up good players. So you're going to have to give up something. I'm not sure who that would be for the New Orleans Pelicans, but if they're able to land a player like John Collins, who I think is pretty solid, having a rough year from the three-point line, I'm pretty sure this is a career low for him, but he gives you some good juice. He can give you 13.5 points a game. He's a good rebounder of the basketball. He can protect the rim, 1.2 blocks per game. Overall, shooting almost 52% from the field. Collins, though, is a career, like we talked about, 35.8% shooter from beyond the three-point stripe, and that's why I'm not too concerned about the low percentages this year. That can change the scenery, sometimes gets the best out of you. I like Collins. I think him in New Orleans would be a good fit next to Brandon Ingram, Zion, and McCollum down there in the boot. Is this the year? I love this question right here, because it seems like John Collins is always on the trade market. Is this the year John Collins is traded? Sound off. Y for yes and for no down below. A little rapid fire right here. Some storylines to monitor as the trade deadline creeps up. We're about a week away. The 76ers, are they moving Matisse Thybulle, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA? He's just kind of fallen out of the rotation a little bit in Philadelphia. Look, if you can't hit shots late in games like he can't, and sometimes you're playing 4-on-5 on offense, sometimes you got to move on from him, no matter how good they are of a defender. Also, there's a report that half the league is calling on Bogdan right now for the Atlanta Hawks. Maybe that's another piece that we could be seeing moved. He's a good scorer. He can shoot it from the outside. I just wonder how much more he can give you as a winning piece besides just being a guy that can knock down the three-point shot. Interesting team to monitor at the trade deadline is definitely the Atlanta Hawks. Has not been that good of a season for them. Trae Young's been struggling. DeJounte Murray has been great, but look, they went all in this year. 3 first-round picks and the results just aren't there right now. Bojan Bogdanovic, one of my favorite players in the league. The buzz is going crazy. I call him a professional scorer. He's going to give you 20 a night. He can knock down the three-point ball with ease. I think he's shooting above 42% right now from that spot. Look, if you're a team that needs more shooting and you need a guy that has experience and you're trying to make a run at the title, Bojan is definitely a guy that I would definitely look at. There's also another rumor out there that the Knicks are interested in the Villanova product, Saddiq Bey of the Detroit Pistons. You already got Jalen Brunson. You already got Ryan Arcidiacono. Could they look to go get another one of those Nova boys? I like Saddiq Bey. I think he's a winning player. Just in a bad situation right now. His field goal percentage is pretty low. It hovers about 40% throughout his career. But I wonder if that's more of his environment than the actual player that he is. Kind of just has to get shots up with Detroit right now. Also, the Boston Celtics are reportedly interested in trying to go out and make a trade for a big man. I like Al Horford. I like Williams. But sometimes you just need a guy that you can put out there and just dominate the paint, own the boards, because I think that's kind of the Achilles heel right now for the Boston Celtics. We know that they're a team that's a title favorite with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and all of those players they got right there. But I think they could use another bench big to come in, play some defense, own the boards, give you a little bit of scoring punch off the bench. The trade rumors are heating up, and that's because the trade deadline is almost here. Look, no place on YouTube is going to keep you up to date like we are here at Chat Sports and NBA Now on everything surrounding the NBA. There's going to be a trade, and we're going to be live breaking it down. We're going to be live February 9th for the trade deadline. Make sure you're there. If you're not there, what are you going to be doing? Join us, youtube.com/chatsportstv. That link is in the comments and description of today's show. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Love you guys. We know ball here at Chat Sports. And if you watch this far, you know ball.